The applause inside Studio 6B was thunderous, bright, alive, and echoing with the sheer joy only a Tonight Show audience can create. The band played with a vibrant, welcoming energy, and Jimmy Fallon's signature laugh filled the air, signaling the start of the next big segment. Hugh Jackman walked in, waving that unmistakable smile that somehow manages to carry both immense physical strength and disarming, genuine gentleness. The iconic New York City skyline was a distant, shimmering backdrop outside the studio's massive windows, perfectly setting the stage for expected celebrity charm and wit. It was supposed to be a regular, predictable interview, a familiar routine Hugh had performed countless times across every major continent. They would talk about his new action-packed film, share a few practiced, hilarious jokes, and perhaps reveal a surprise, heartwarming anecdote about life back home in Australia. Hugh greeted Jimmy with a powerful, warm handshake and settled comfortably into the guest chair, his posture radiating easy, familiar confidence. But as he settled in and looked out into the brightly lit crowd, ready to engage, his eyes stopped immediately and completely on something, or rather, on someone specific. In the third row, positioned directly near the aisle, a small boy no older than 10 sat clutching a single, folded piece of paper in both hands. It was noticeably not a modern phone, not a professionally printed sign, but a simple, worn piece of drawing paper. The edges were crumpled and soft, clearly marked from persistent handling, and it was faintly drawn on with brightly colored pencils. The boy held it with a deep, focused reverence, treating it like something uniquely precious and vitally important. Hugh couldn't tear his gaze away. The intensity of the boy's silent grip was strangely compelling and demanding. Jimmy, always highly attuned to his guests, noticed the sudden, deep and focused pause in his usually ebullient star. "You okay, mate?" Jimmy asked, leaning closer with a good-natured, questioning grin. "Yeah, I'm good," Hugh said, blinking rapidly to break the intense observation. "Just that kid down there in the third row. He's holding something. It genuinely looks like a treasure map or some kind of highly secret plan." The audience chuckled lightly, unsure if this was the start of a well-rehearsed joke or a real moment of distraction. Hugh managed a genuine smile for the camera, but his intense gaze immediately returned to the boy. The boy met his eyes for a brief, startled second, then quickly and nervously looked down, clutching the paper even tighter against his small chest. When the cameras finally cut for the scheduled commercial break, Hugh leaned forward instantly toward Jimmy, his face etched with unusual seriousness. "Please, can you quietly ask the crew who that kid is? I have a deeply unsettling feeling about him." Jimmy, recognizing the undeniable sincerity and deep concern in Hugh's voice, nodded immediately and spoke softly to his closest producer. The commercial ended swiftly, and the next segment began, seamlessly flowing into casual celebrity banter. Jimmy cracked several hilarious jokes about the recent awards season, and the audience roared with genuine, appreciative laughter. But every time Hugh tried to focus completely on the flow of the conversation, his eyes uncontrollably drifted toward the third row. The boy was still there, exactly as he had been, sitting quietly, silently, still clutching that piece of paper like it was the key to his entire future. Then, halfway through an anecdote about a difficult, complicated film stunt, the smooth flow of the live show fractured irrevocably. The boy stood up, slowly, quietly, and with painstaking care, as if terrified of breaking something invisible and vital. His mother beside him instantly froze, her eyes wide with shock, whispering his name in a desperate, pleading hush. But the boy ignored her quiet warning and took one decisive step forward into the aisle. The powerful stage lights caught the faint, shy shimmer of the drawing he held, now held aloft in his small hands. Jimmy's voice stopped abruptly mid-sentence. The words simply evaporated into the stunned, complete silence of the room. "I'm sorry," the boy finally said, his voice trembling slightly, but carrying surprising resolve. "I need to give this to Mr. Jackman. I made a solemn promise." Hugh looked at him, absolutely stunned by the emotional, unexpected interruption. "It's okay," he said gently, moving to the edge of the stage. "Please, come here, mate." A large security guard instantly took 2 quick steps toward the aisle, his professional caution evident in his stance. But Jimmy quickly raised a firm hand, signaling no interference, and gave a clear, trusting nod. The boy walked slowly down the aisle, his small sneakers squeaking softly and distinctly against the polished floor. When he finally reached the edge of the stage, he looked up at Hugh, his eyes noticeably red from held-back tears, his hands shaking profoundly, and held out the folded paper. Hugh immediately and instinctively knelt down at the edge of the stage, bridging the distance between them with his body language. "What exactly is this, buddy?" he asked, smiling softly. The boy whispered, the words barely amplified by the studio microphones. "My brother drew it. He said it was specifically for you." The paper unfolded with a fragile, almost audible crackle of old, handled paper. It was a detailed, meticulously hand-drawn map, created using bright, thick crayons, crooked marker lines, and childish imagination. Small, hopeful drawings of stars and hearts filled the empty spaces in the corners. At the very top, written deliberately and boldly in thick blue marker, the map of tomorrow. Hugh's eyes slowly scanned the entire page, taking in the imaginative roads, the wavy, blue rivers, and the small, sun-like drawings. Near the bottom, written clearly in a child's struggling, uneven handwriting, "Final stop, Hugh Jackman." He looked up at the boy, his expression now deeply solemn and focused. "Your brother truly drew this all by himself?" The boy nodded, tears now finally streaming down his pale cheeks. He absolutely loved you. He watched The Greatest Showman every single day, right up until the very end. He always said when he got better, he was going to follow all the roads on the map and find you himself. But he didn't get better in time, Mr. Jackman. Hugh froze completely in his kneeling position. The raw, devastating finality of the boy's words hung heavily in the brightly lit, silent studio air. Jimmy's face, which had been confused moments ago, instantly softened into an expression of profound, shared sorrow. The large audience remained utterly, hauntingly silent. The boy continued, his voice finding unexpected clarity, driven by the pure urgency of the mission. Before he went to sleep for good, he told me I had to finish the map. He said I had to make absolutely sure the final stop on his map of tomorrow was you. Hugh swallowed hard, his throat tightening visibly. He looked at the map again, slowly tracing one of the shaky crayon lines with his thumb, forming a silent connection with the small creator. There was one final tiny message written in near illegible letters right underneath Hugh's name. "When you find him, tell him I'm not afraid anymore." Tears instantly welled, glistening intensely in Hugh's eyes, obscuring the stage lights. He folded the map with extreme, painstaking care, like it was a fragile, irreplaceable artifact made of delicate rice paper, and looked back at the boy. "What was his beautiful name, mate?" "Oliver," the boy whispered, the sound catching slightly and weakly in his throat. Hugh smiled through his tears, his voice breaking significantly. "That's truly a magnificent name, Oliver." He stood up slowly, deliberately, still carefully holding the map in one protective hand. "Would you do me a great honor and sit right here with us for the rest of the show?" The boy nodded immediately, still trembling, but the huge burden of his mission was finally lifted. Jimmy instantly gestured to a nearby stagehand to bring a small, comfortable chair to the stage level. The entire audience watched, utterly mesmerized and silent, as the boy sat down directly beside Hugh. They both looked down at the fragile map of tomorrow now resting spread open on the host's desk. "Oliver drew all these incredible roads and rivers by himself?" Hugh asked, his voice low, respectful, and slightly shaky. "Yeah," the boy confirmed. "He said every single road was a big dream he didn't get to live yet. He wanted to see the whole world." Hugh stared deeply at the crude, hopeful lines, the deep blue rivers, the vibrant green hills, the tiny, optimistic stars. "He did live them," Hugh stated softly, his gaze not leaving the paper. "He had the power and the courage to dream them up. That, buddy, is the most important part of living." For a long, significant, powerful moment, No one in the studio dared to utter a single word. The powerful studio lights dimmed further, almost imperceptibly, as if the entire production itself was bowing its head in tribute. The background music remained completely faded, contributing to the profound silence. Jimmy sat quietly behind his desk, openly wiping a persistent tear from his eye. Then Hugh reached deliberately into his pocket and pulled out a small, sleek, deeply personal silver pen. He looked carefully at the map, then gently over at the boy, asking silent permission with his eyes. "Can I draw one thing on the map, Oliver's map, just for us?" The boy nodded immediately, his eyes shining with renewed interest and complete trust in the celebrity. Hugh drew a tiny, perfect, hopeful circle next to Oliver's final, distant star and wrote two small, clear, resonant words. "Tomorrow never ends." The boy's lower lip trembled profoundly as he read the words written in silver ink. He whispered, his voice catching. He would have truly, really liked that. Hugh smiled, a painful yet undeniably beautiful expression. "I think he already knows, mate." And then, something genuinely unexpected and deeply human happened. The boy instinctively, urgently reached out and wrapped his small arms tightly around Hugh's neck. It wasn't planned by the crew, wasn't prompted by the host, and certainly wasn't staged for the cameras. It was just a quiet, desperate, immediate moment of shared comfort and closure in a place built for boisterous laughter. Hugh instantly closed his eyes and hugged him back fiercely, whispering into the boy's ear, "You brought him here tonight. You finally finished the map for him." For the next 30 long seconds, the massive studio remained completely silent, honoring the sacred, unspoken exchange. Not even the gentle hum of the technology dared to be heard. When Hugh finally pulled back, he carefully placed the folded map in the absolute center of the desk, between him and Jimmy. "You know," he said softly, looking primarily at Jimmy, "we spend our lives talking about how our movies and our stories change people's lives. But sometimes a real, honest moment of life like this changes our movies and fundamentally changes us." Jimmy simply nodded slowly, still too deeply emotional to speak the proper words. The camera zoomed in slowly, moving until the map of tomorrow was the only thing perfectly focused on the large screen, glowing under the warm stage light. Hugh looked directly into the camera lens and out toward the unseen television audience, his eyes still glistening with tears. "Oliver, wherever you are right now, mate," he said, his famous voice cracking completely. The map finally reached the final stop. Mission accomplished. No one clapped, no transition music played, and no commercial break followed. The show did not technically end. It simply paused, suspended in that impossible, profound silence where true love and devastating loss finally meet. Then, slowly, almost reverently, the entire audience began to rise to its feet. Not to cheer, not to applaud for celebrity, but simply to stand and honor the quiet, sacred event that had just unfolded before them. Hugh looked down at the fragile paper one last time, a small, genuine smile finally breaking through his tears, and whispered, "See you at the next stop, buddy. We'll finish the rest of the map together, one dream at a time." The screen faded to a silent, abrupt black, leaving the simple, hand-drawn map as the final, lingering image of the night. The segment instantly became one of the most unexpected, emotional, and shared moments in the history of The Tonight Show. It was not the celebrity performance that defined its success, but the simple, unscripted, human connection it captured. Hugh Jackman kept the map of tomorrow permanently. He had it professionally framed, preserving every crayon line, and placed it in his private study. Every time he prepared for a difficult, draining role or faced a challenging day, he would look at the childish crayon lines. He saw the roads Oliver dreamed of traveling, and the fearless final promise he made about being unafraid. Hugh eventually arranged to meet privately with Oliver's family, spending hours talking about his boundless spirit and love for the greatest showman's central message of hope. The small boy, who bravely carried the map, grew up knowing he had successfully completed his brother's final, most important task on Earth. He realized that even in the face of the greatest sadness, love finds a concrete, permanent way to keep its most sacred promises. Jimmy Fallon still speaks of the map of tomorrow moment with visible emotion. He said it permanently taught him that sometimes the best comedy is absolute silence, and the best television is simply watching humanity honestly connect. The small silver pen Hugh used to complete the map is now kept in a small velvet box, an important relic of that beautiful, unexpected moment. Hugh Jackman carries the memory of Oliver and his map with him constantly, reminding him what true strength, the strength of the human spirit, looks like. It wasn't just a map of missed dreams, but a final, powerful testament to the belief that the courageous human spirit is truly not afraid of the great unknown. And sometimes, the final stop on a short, beautiful journey is exactly the place where a promise is finally, perfectly fulfilled. The love contained in that small, folded paper transcended the celebrity, the stage, and the medium itself. It simply proved that the greatest dreams are the ones you share with those you love. And Hugh Jackman's career, already legendary, gained an entirely new, unexpected, and profound dimension that night. He became the final necessary destination on Oliver's map of tomorrow.